You know the drill. One minute, a celebrity is absolutely on top of the world, everybody loves them, and the next, they're basically public enemy number one. But how much of that is real? And how much is a story, a carefully crafted narrative? Well, today we're pulling back the curtain on the Hollywood PR machine to figure out how these celebrity images are built, broken, and sometimes, somehow, miraculously rebuilt. And it all starts with one big question, right? Why does it seem to happen overnight? Is it a real fall from grace, or is there something else going on behind the scenes? The truth is, it's almost never just a random string of bad luck. There's a system at play, a really powerful machine that can make a star, and, just as quickly, bring them crashing down. I mean, just look at Timothée Chalamet. For years, he was this sensitive indie golden boy. He was the internet's favorite artist, right? Then, after one interview where he came across as a little pretentious, dismissing certain types of art, the whole tide just turned. All of a sudden, old clips were being reframed, his whole persona was called into question, and the backlash was immediate and intense. Or think about Ellen DeGeneres. Her entire massive brand was built on two words: be kind. That was her thing. But then one employee, just one, spoke out about a toxic workplace, and it was like a dam broke. It opened the floodgates. All those years of rumors suddenly had a place to land, and her carefully built image just shattered, almost overnight. And then you've got Chris Pratt. He went from being this lovable, goofy guy to being known as one of the internet's least favorite Chris's. Now, with him, it wasn't one big scandal. It was more like a slow pulling of blocks from his public image. Criticisms about his church, his politics, a weird Instagram post, and eventually the whole structure just became unstable. So, what connects all these stories? It's what you could call Hollywood's invisible hand, a PR system that's been perfecting its craft for almost 100 years. The same machine that builds these stars up also holds the power to tear them down. And believe me, this isn't a new thing, it's just the tools that have changed. Let's just do a quick history lesson on how this machine evolved. Back in the 1920s, you had the studio system. Studios literally owned actors, and they fed whatever stories they wanted to the press. By the 40s, you had these incredibly powerful gossip columnists, people like Hedda Hopper, who could end a career with just one sentence. The goal was always the same: control the story. Today, that battlefield is the internet, but the game hasn't changed. Social media just makes everything way faster and a whole lot messier. This whole blueprint was really set in stone way back in the 1920s. There was a guy named Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle. He was one of the biggest stars in the world until a huge scandal hit. Now, even though he was acquitted after 3 separate trials, his career was completely over. And you want to know why? The newspaper tycoon William Randolph Hearst admitted that the scandal sold more papers than the sinking of the Lusitania. It was the first real proof that taking down a celebrity was incredibly profitable. Okay, so before a star can fall, they first have to be built up. And that brings us to the first part of this whole cycle: creating the media darling. This is a persona, a character that's been carefully manufactured to make all of us fall in love with them. And PR teams, well, they have this down to a science. They use these proven archetypes. You've got the quirky, relatable girl, like Jennifer Lawrence tripping at the Oscars. You've got the lovable goofball, which was Chris Pratt from Parks and Rec. And of course, the sensitive genius, which was Timothée Chalamet. These personas, they don't just happen. They are curated to make you like the person, which in turn makes you want to go buy a ticket to their movie. But what happens when that perfectly curated image starts to show some cracks? Well, this is when the very same machine that built the star starts the process of tearing them down. It can look chaotic, and honestly, it's often pretty brutal, but it follows a pattern that's surprisingly predictable. The anatomy of a takedown really follows a clear path. It all starts with a single spark: a bad interview, a careless comment, an accusation. That becomes the fuel as the internet starts digging up old rumors, old clips. Then social media becomes the fire, amplifying all that negativity at an incredible speed, until finally a new verdict is reached. The media darling becomes the villain. This is something called the brush fire effect. Let's take Joss Whedon. For years, he was this icon in nerd culture, a feminist hero. Then, the actor Ray Fisher accused him of abusive behavior on the set of Justice League. And all of a sudden, stories that had been quiet for years, from the sets of Buffy and his other shows, just erupted all at once. That one spark ignited a total firestorm, and the narrative around him was changed for good.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Sometimes these takedowns aren't organic at all. They're actually wars fought between competing PR teams. During the controversy around their movie It Ends With Us, accusations started flying in both directions. Old clips of Blake Lively being kind of rude resurfaced. At the same time, Justin Baldoni was accused of being a performative male feminist, basically that his support was just an act for his own benefit. What looked like a public spat was really a war between two PR machines, each trying to control the story.
So why does the internet pile on so fast? A lot of it comes down to this psychological thing called confirmation bias. See, once the story flips and we start to think a celebrity might be a bad person, our brains actively start looking for evidence to prove it. Every old interview, every awkward moment becomes another piece of proof that fits our new belief. And there is no better example of this in recent memory than the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. This wasn't just a legal battle. It was a full-blown global internet war fought on TikTok and YouTube. At first, the story painted Depp as the aggressor. But as the trial played out live, millions of people created this absolute tsunami of content that completely reshaped the narrative in real time. It was the ultimate proof that today, the court of public opinion can be way more powerful than any court of law. But here's the final twist. The same machine that destroys can also rebuild. After this spectacular fall from grace, the PR machine just shifts gears to craft what might be Hollywood's favorite story of all, the redemption arc. You don't have to look any further than the Brendan Fraser Renaissance. Fraser was a huge star in the 90s, and then he just disappeared. He'd suffered injuries, and allegedly he was sexually assaulted by a powerful industry figure. For years, he was forgotten. But when he came back in the film The Whale, the industry didn't just welcome him back, it celebrated him. They built this powerful story around his resilience and his kindness, and it all led up to him winning an Oscar. Or let's talk about Robert Downey Jr. back in the early 2000s. After years of very public struggles, he was seen as a total liability. Hollywood thought he was, and this is a direct quote, basically deemed uninsurable. And then he got cast as Iron Man. It was a complete and total narrative rebirth. The same system that had once published his mugshot was now selling him as the ultimate comeback hero. It's such a powerful story, right? The second chance, and audiences absolutely love it. So after seeing how stars are built up, torn down, and then redeemed, it all really comes back to that one question. Who is actually in control of the story? Here's the key takeaway. Celebrities are more than just people. They are narratives. They're stories packaged for us to consume. We aren't just engaging with a person, we're engaging with a story, the genius, the villain, the comeback hero. And usually, the same machine that writes the first chapter is the one that gets to write the last one too. So the next time you see a celebrity being celebrated online, or maybe torn down, just remember that invisible hand at work. It's a game. It's about perception and strategy and narrative control. So the question I want to leave you with is this. Now that you know how the game is played, can you ever really watch it the same way again?